Hi, my name is Phillipa Vincent-Connolly. I'm a historian specialising in disability history, and I'm here to talk about my experience as a disabled person with lockdown and the COVID pandemic. I actually haven't found the pandemic to affect me as much as, say, somebody who was going out and doing a 9-to-5 job, because at present I have been struggling to get a permanent teaching post, and when I am not doing that, I'm at home sat in front of my laptop writing, researching history. So, for me, I'm always at home anyway. In the beginning, I found the lockdown quite good because it gave me the time to really focus on what I was doing and not worry about having to chase the latest job vacancy that I'd seen online, for example. So that was a real positive about it. The downside to it was being locked in the flat with a 17-year-old teenager who was bored and wanted to go out and didn't understand really what was going on and how it destroyed their social life, etc., etc. So that made it a bit tough for both of us. The other thing was just the practicalities of day-to-day living during the lockdown. I mean, I've always been one to shop online anyway, purely because of the convenience and not having to traipse all the way down to the supermarket, go and buy a month's load of shopping, lug it back in a trolley, put it back into the car, bring it home, lug it into the flat, and then obviously pack it all away. So I've never been one for doing much shopping in a supermarket myself. So that was a difficulty because you couldn't get any slots for your shopping, and I was thinking, well, what on earth am I going to do? So I had to sort of like pre-plan way ahead in advance and order things I thought I would need maybe a month and a half down the line, ready for when the delivery came. Sometimes you couldn't get a slot, so then I'd start to look online at other supermarkets I hadn't necessarily ever shopped in before and get used to their system of doing things. And then sometimes you couldn't even get a slot with them. And then I sort of looked at things like Deliveroo, which were great, but they were only like for the little corner shops who didn't have all the variety. And then they charge you like an arm and a leg to get things delivered. But I mean, for the basics of bread and milk, and for things that you need every day, they were brilliant. But that was quite a challenge. The other thing that's a challenge is the fact that when you are not working, even though I'm signed up to 3 teaching agencies and they're not bringing you in any work, I'm on universal credit, and universal credit is a nightmare because it does not cater for people with disabilities. There is nothing within those premiums under universal credit for people that have to pay for extra things if they've got a disability. So, for example, to make my life easier, in normal circumstances, I might get a cleaner to come in once a month for a few hours to do the jobs around the flat that I can't possibly do. The challenging physical things that I find difficult. And to be honest, who wants to spend all their time cleaning anyway if they've got better things to do, like writing a book? So, things like that, things like the fact that I wear through my shoes in 3 weeks because of the way I walk. There's not extra money for things like those. The fact that food shopping has gone through the roof in terms of the expense of it. Not only that, when you're at home all the time, what do? You sit in front of the TV and you eat. Well, that was certainly the case for my teenager. So we've been spending double the amount we'd normally spend on food every month during lockdown. So that was really, really hard. Then you've got the worry of thinking, am I on the shielding list? Am I meant to be on the shielding list? The information from government and from the National Health wasn't clear about any of that particularly. So I just shielded for the most of the time as much as I possibly could, and only went out when literally we had nothing in the cupboards whatsoever and I couldn't get delivery. So all those things were really challenging, and it was really worrying. And we had a neighbour in the flat 2 floors above who worked in the NHS who contracted COVID. So she'd been self-isolating, but she wasn't a personal acquaintance. So, but you heard about people getting COVID, and you still hear about people getting COVID. And it's just everything is exacerbated by the fact that you hear some information one day and then something different another day, and other people are getting help here and other people are getting help there. But as usual, disabled people, because they cannot contribute to society, or they're seen that they can't contribute to society economically, then they're not deemed important enough to be given help. So we haven't had extra top-ups of any benefits. We haven't had any extra help with working from home. We've just had to muddle through the best we can. Carers might not have been able to come in to look after the people that they're meant to be nursing. I mean, I don't need a carer, thank God. I haven't got to that stage in my life. But other people who are in that position where they have needed support in the home haven't had that. So goodness knows how they've been coping. You know, you haven't been able to have immediate family around who you would normally have around to support you. You haven't been able to travel anywhere to see anybody, to spend time in a different place, so that you've got that extra support. It's all been very all over the place, very hit and miss. It's still very hit and miss because we're still seeing the high death rate and the high cases of the COVID every single day. Nothing's really changed. We've almost wasted a year because of this pandemic, because nobody can organise anything properly, and nobody consults disabled people about what support they need, or it doesn't seem as if they do. And we are the dregs of society to a lot of people in the country, because like I said, we're not seen to be able to contribute or make a difference or anything like that. But I beg to differ. I know many disabled people that have got so much to say, so much to offer, and we are being put on the scrap heap because, you know, we are not creating jobs. We maybe don't have businesses, or people see us as unemployable. And it makes me really, really mad. It's one of the reasons why a few years ago I ran as a candidate for in my local election. I stood for Labour, and I very much believed in the policies of the party under Jeremy Corbyn, not just because of him, but because I knew that him and his cabinet and people like John McDonnell, Barry Gardiner, people like that were very proactive about issues for disabled people. I actually met with Barry Gardiner and spoke to him about the process for the PIP, changing people from the disability living allowance to PIP. And I was one of those unfortunate people that had my DLA stopped, my Motability car, which I'd had since 1978, taken from me. I had to be assessed by somebody who came round to see me in my own home, who didn't know me from Adam, who didn't have any medical knowledge or background whatsoever, who couldn't judge me properly in those terms, or knew what my life was like, saying no, I wasn't entitled to it anymore. So, you know, I had the foresight and the fortitude to go on national TV, to go on Channel 4 News and debate at the Olympic Park about what it meant for me as a disabled person to lose that benefit, with a minister of the government who had cerebral palsy himself and who had no understanding whatsoever of it. All he was interested in is how much money he could save the government by not helping people like himself who were disabled, which infuriated me to bits. In the end, I wrote a strongly worded letter to the assessment people for PIP, and went through reconsideration of my case. Unfortunately, I won my car back, but all that whole process was very, very unnerving, very worrying. You know, I'm a single parent with 2 teenagers. My mum is no longer with us. My dad died in July. if I'd have lost my car, then that would have been it. I wouldn't have been able to go out and get a job or be in teaching or do supply work or anything else that I'm doing. So that whole process of trying to save money and stop me having a vehicle was then stopping me from contributing to society, paying taxes like everybody else and making a difference. The whole thing just seemed completely hypocritic to me. It just didn't make sense. It still doesn't make sense the way they are cutting and cutting and cutting benefits for disabled people repeatedly. We are paying the price for the 2008 crash. Since that happened, all working class people are, disabled people are bearing the brunt of that. And now with Rishi Sunak's announcements yesterday, it looks like the working class again are going to be paying for the cost of the pandemic. And I think it's absolutely appalling. And one of the reasons why I ran for the local election is because I wanted, as a disabled person, to be a voice for people with disabilities, albeit only in my local area. Unfortunately, we didn't beat the local party, but I beat the Tories, so I'm really proud of that. Being a lifelong socialist, I'm going to be proud of that. I would have perhaps liked to have run for Parliament. I did go for an interview to become an MP, but as I was only the only woman at the time who was interviewed in that process for Bournemouth West, I think it was, I didn't get very far. But I think I would have given Boris Johnson hell over the dispatch box. So you have to, I don't know, in these times, with everything that's going on, you have to make the best of what's going on. You have to do what you can to make a difference to those around you, to contribute to things on social media in a positive way, to talk to people like I'm talking to you now, sharing your stories and just showing people that there are different people in society who are having to live life in a different way, not because through any choice of their own, but they're just making the best of the cards that they've been dealt in their life. And that's all I'm really trying to do to the best of my ability. And I think that we should be considered much more in society than we actually are. And I think that there should be more people, more disabled people in the public eye to give people of the disability community a voice. And that's my opinion on it.